Zenless Zone Zero 1.4 has been released and it's been a great time. This patch has brought so many major changes to the game to the point that it's basically a relaunch of the game. We got brand new story, new in-game modes, our new agents miHoYo and Harmasa, and even major changes to the combat that now allows us to use every character's ultimate on your team. Because of this update, we have a lot of things to do and even more to cover. But in this video, I really want to talk about the ultimate changes and go over how they will heavily impact the future of Zenless. There's a lot of good and even a bit of bad, but overall I just want to have a discussion with you guys to not only provide you guys my perspective of the changes, but I also want to hear your opinion on the overall changes to the patch as well. Let me know in the comments below. Also, while you're down there, let me know if you guys pull from miHoYo or even copies of Harmasa, because if you lost a 50-50 like me, be sure to check out my guys at Loot Bar before you go for that guaranteed. Loot Bar is a top-up service that offers amazing deals on premium currency for some of your favorite gacha games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and even good old Zenless Zone Zero. Loot Bar offers 15% off of any premium currency, which is 15% cheaper than the official games. If you want to buy some monochromes, all you need to do is select the amount you want, enter your UID, and select your server region. Then bam! Your currency is loaded onto your account in a matter of minutes and even sometimes seconds. Now you're probably wondering, how is that even possible? Well, this is because Loot Bar has cooperated with the HoYoverse routing partner to help offer you the most affordable rates based on where you live. This means you're getting the premium currency you want at a discounted rate on a completely safe and secure platform. I know this because I myself use the platform and they've worked with other amazing creators like Raiden Shotgun and Dakaja, as well as they have amazing reviews from other customers too. So if you're still trying to get those copies of miHoYo and Harmasa, be sure to head over to Loot Bar by clicking my link in the description below and get an 8% off new user coupon so you can grab those units before it's too late. Alright, to start this whole discussion off, let's go over the pros first, because I believe there is more good than bad with these changes, and I want to be sure we start talking about the good of the patch that's been done before we get into the negatives. I believe a lot of these changes that they made ultimately benefit majority of the player base and allows them even more creative freedom in the future. So to get it started, the first thing I want to talk about is that because of this change, we get to now experience all of the amazing cinematics from the ultimates. This has been a pretty big issue with the game ever since its release, because we've only been able to use one ultimate on our team, meaning that a lot of times people were only using ultimates from their DPS, which only comes from our anomaly and our attacker units. We were missing out all of the other beautiful ultimates from our stunners, our defense units, and our support characters, because a lot of times if you end up using their ultimate, you end up having a severe DPS loss, meaning that you wasted using those ultimates on those other characters. Now with this change, that no longer is an issue, and now it overall actually is a buff for using all of your ultimates on your characters, because now you get to take advantage of all the resources on your team. This overall makes the presentation and excitement of looking at Zenless, from not only personally playing the game yourself, but also looking like creators and videos on Zenless in general, because they just look a lot more exciting and explosive due to all these amazing cinematic work that's been done within the game. I'm super happy that I get to look at my boy Lighter go crazy and perform his K-Dash super reference all the time when I play him on my favorite team without me having to worry about having a DPS loss. It's just an amazing feeling. Also, because of changes to these ultimates, characters now have greater value, potentially moving them up in the meta because they're going to be better overall. We're mostly seeing this coming from the support units, because now not only do they provide their supportive capabilities with their buffs to the team, now they're able to shoot off their ultimates to provide additional DPS support, because most ultimates from supports actually come out pretty fast except for Sukaku, and they also provide additional bonuses like providing your team extra energy, making it overall worth it with doing so. We're also able to quick assist from their ultimates, so you don't really lose any time at all for using ultimates with them. It's just overall an added bonus to your team. Because of the change, there's also potentially an expansion for team building and rotations for teams, since we don't have to heavily focus on burning our ultimates with our DPS. We can now optimize new ways to better daze and replenish energy for our team, with specifically characters like stunners and supports, but we also have characters like our defenders that are able to provide us extra regen on our assist points as well. We haven't seen any major shift yet when it comes to team building and rotation because of ultimates so far, but I believe this is something that will happen in the future, as I believe because of this change, ultimates will will start to get even more creative and even crazier and character specific as time goes on. One of the ideas I have with that is for a DPS, or really any character in the game, instead of their ultimate just being a big burst of damage, we can implement the ideas of installs or transformations for characters to overall improve their stats and even change up their gameplay when they're in that form. Think of someone like Firefly in Honkai Star Rail. When she activates her ultimate, she goes into her super magical girl form with her mech suit, and I believe she has like the fire shooting off her, and then she gets like advanced or enhanced basic attacks, essentially changing up her gameplay style when she's in that ultimate form. I just like the idea of that because it's super fun and really crazy, and it's something that I'm really used to when it comes to being a fan of fighting games. One of my favorite fighting game characters ever is Soul Bad Guy from the Guilty Gear series, and that is one of his most iconic things about him in some of the older games. He has a form called Dragon Install that completely changes his appearance, and now everything about his kit is completely enhanced. He has new combo routes, even more insane animations, and it just makes the character overall really fun. But it's something that requires a lot more work to get to, so I imagine that if they're going to add an ultimate or some unique ideas like this, they're probably going to make the ultimate cost a lot higher. They can also make slight tweaks to how that specific character builds decibel points in general, because I do know with the changes to the decibel system, they actually have very specific amount of points depending on what the character does with how many points they'll build for that specific action. So they could make character specific things for whatever unit they want to do to add in this install idea and make it so that they build the points a bit slower in comparison to other characters in the game. But again, the payoff will be very much worth it once they get to that ultimate transformation / install. But that's really it when it comes to the pros of it. Currently, the utility of ultimates are pretty simple within Zenless, so there really isn't too much of a drastic thing to speak up or on about, which is why I have a few things listed in the cons because of that. First off, I think one of the potential issues we could have with this change, which hasn't been shown just yet, but my fear is that because of this change, ultimates may start becoming heavily spammed to the point that it devalues the progression that the team has made to improve the depth of the combat system. One of the major worries that players had when they announced that this change was coming to the game was that it was going to be essentially similar to Genshin. And if you don't know, in Genshin, your goal is just to pop ultimate with every character, do their rotations, and essentially repeat. And that overall devalues and simplifies the way that Zenless is played. Even though it is a simple game, it doesn't play to a similar pace or style to Genshin Impact, and I don't want that for Zenless to happen. Everything that they've been doing so far with Zenless combat has been them making strides to make the combat a bit more complex, to have a lot more depth to it, and I don't want them to hinder that or ruin that by just implementing this new change, which could harm it. Now again, this has not been shown so far to have any harm, and I'm pretty sure they probably tested this, but it doesn't mean that it can't come up or show up in the future once we get more time with this ultimate change and people start experimenting more. I just really do hope it doesn't get to that point, because it'll essentially kind of dumb down the game's true potential. I also believe that because of this change, it makes some characters feel lackluster due to them not receiving any buffs or proper changes that essentially accommodates them for fitting in this new system. What I mean by this is that some characters' ultimates are just not worth doing. Even though we have this change implemented, it just really isn't a point of doing it because you don't really get that much out of it for performing it. For example, at the moment, I don't think it's currently worth using most of the defenders' ultimates, because a lot of times you aren't really getting any huge benefits from them outside of getting extra assist points. And when it comes to the current rotations of the game right now, if you're playing characters properly, you really don't need any of that little extra bit of damage on assist points from characters, just because you rebuild those by triggering chain attacks, and you're able to use other options like your perfect dodging, using quick swap tech and stuff, essentially avoid taking damage and going into other characters anyway. So I think that they need to provide some changes for these ultimates for certain characters and even classes to essentially bring up their value either now or in the future, so their ultimates just don't feel worthless. Which also plays into the fact that a lot of ultimates are just samey. They have very different animations, they look really cool, but the value that you get from them are essentially all the same. For example, every attacker, for the most part, you're just doing it to do big damage. You don't really get anything crazy from them. They just are very straight to the point, big damage, that's it, and you just perform their rotation again. We need something extra and a little more pizzazz to it now that this new change is here, because since we're going to be constantly doing ultimates over and over, there needs to be some value put into those ultimates to make those characters feel a lot more unique. They actually kind of teased or showed us a little bit of uniqueness with the idea that they have with Miyabi, that when she performs her ult, not only does it do big damage, she also provides herself an ice damage buff, if I'm not mistaken, which is something that a lot of other characters don't have within the game. They don't have this additional effect to them that makes them unique and makes it really special for them, and they need to continue to do that and even update the current characters in the game to have things like that. Same thing with like supports. All of the supports ultimates are pretty much the same. You pop them to get the quick assist and to gain the extra energy, but there's nothing else special about those ultimates that differentiates those characters from the other supports, so it just makes it feel like you're just doing the same game plan over and over no matter the team. And I need them to expand upon that idea to make characters feel a lot more diverse within that kit. Make it so that when Rena pops her ult, not only does she replenish her energy, but now that maybe while she's off screen, she gets to manipulate her puppets or something a bit more, or increases the duration of her puppets while she's off screen. Maybe with the Cold's ultimate, not only does it provide energy, but now it does like a big anomaly explosion that rains an anomaly eat the res debuff onto the enemies within the area. They can do really crazy ideas like that would cause them to, you know, do a bit of extra animations, do a bit of tweaking to the game. Even with that in mind, the dev team have already shown that they're willing to go above and beyond to make improvements and to make the game fit the dream that a lot of us players have for it. I mean, they literally added a whole extra section, so if you don't want to do TV mode, you don't have to, while they're also still going to be adding new TV mode sections for that. The dev team is willing to do the extra mile to add these new things within the game, so I believe that they could potentially be willing to add new things to these pre-existing characters to make them more valuable and a lot more unique than what they are currently. Also, lastly, to piggyback off of a pro I mentioned where this change brings value to some units, this is also a negative in a way, because for some roles it benefits them a lot more than others, and specifically more so I'm talking about anomaly units. From my understanding with how the points distribution works, currently anomaly units benefit from the ultimate change the most because they're able to proc their anomalies a lot more consistently than every other role in the game, so they're able to build up their ultimate gauge a lot faster than most characters. And I think there needs to be some form of adjustment that essentially aligns and balances this a bit better, because we don't want it to continue to be so that everything is skewed in favor of anomaly characters. This has been one of the more smaller to medium sized issues with Zenless, and it's becoming more and more noticeable with the community because everybody are realizing that so much is being in favored with anomaly characters that it's kind of to the point that you really need to pull at least one anomaly character to benefit from the love that the Zenless team has been providing them. I'm sure in the future, as we get more roles like attackers and support, which we're going to be getting 2 new ones within 1.5, I'm pretty sure they're going to start showing us why that even though these anomaly characters have an advantage, that they're going to introduce some other unique things with these other roles to make them catch up and show out as well, which I can't wait to see what they do. But overall, that's everything that I have to talk about with the changes to the ultimate system for Zenless. Again, I think mostly it is a good change and it does benefit more than hurt the game overall, and I'm pretty sure that even if there is some harm done that people don't like as we progressively go on, I'm pretty sure that this team is willing to make the changes to accommodate and make it a lot better for what Zenless is trying to be. My whole thing with this video is that I just want systems like this that are this huge and impact the game this heavily to be thought out and done carefully, and also make sure that it not only benefits our enjoyment but also benefits the future and the core system of Zenless as a whole. It's a very delicate thing to do, and it's honestly a really huge change that I was surprised that they was willing to implement post-launch. Normally you don't see drastic changes like this in most gacha games, especially because normally they like to set the formula that they have in Foundation and not mess with it. But Zenless again has been really open to drastic changes and doing overall improvements to make the game better for everyone that enjoys. So again, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and also don't forget to go in the description below and use my link to Loot Bar to help you guys get the currency you need to pull for Miyabi and Haramasa at affordable prices. Remember to believe in you that believes in yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next one.